You get a small infection, a cut that goes red, a tooth that aches, a cough that won't quit. You take a pill or you see a doctor, and by lunch, you've basically forgotten about it. Here's the strange part. That exact ordinary thing, the one you barely registered, is the kind of thing that ended lives for almost all of human history. You are part of the first generation of humans who get to treat being sick as a temporary inconvenience. For 300,000 years, it was something else entirely. So how did people live when there was no medicine to save them? Short answer, they lived very close to death and very close to each other. They survived on luck, on plants that sometimes worked, on bodies that had to fight nearly everything alone, and on the hands of the people around them. And to be clear from the start, this is not a story about how the old way was better. It absolutely was not. Long answer is harder and more beautiful than that. So let's reconstruct what being human used to mean. First, let's be honest about the world we're talking about. For nearly all of human history, roughly half of all children did not live to grow up. Half. A scrape could turn deadly. A fever could take a strong adult in a week. Childbirth was one of the most dangerous things a person could do. There was no understanding of why any of it happened. No germs, no biology, just the terrifying sense that the body could turn on you at any moment, for reasons no one could see. I want you to really sit with that, because everything else grows out of it. Death wasn't a distant rumor. It lived in the house with you. So what did people actually do? Every culture had its healers. The wise woman with her herbs, the village elder who set bones, the shaman, the midwife, the person who knew which root brought a fever down and which one stopped a wound from going bad. And here's the thing we get wrong. Some of it was nonsense. Bloodletting, charms, treatments that did nothing or made things worse. But some of it genuinely worked. Willow bark really does ease pain. It's where aspirin comes from. Certain molds really do fight infection. People had stumbled over thousands of years onto fragments of real knowledge without ever knowing why it worked. They were running a vast, blind experiment, passed down in stories and trial and error, and a few precious pieces of it were gold. But the real medicine, the thing that did the most, wasn't a plant at all. It was people. When you got sick, you didn't go anywhere. There was no hospital to drive to. You stayed in your own bed, in your own home, and the people who loved you took over. They fed you. They cooled your fever. They cleaned you, sat with you, talked to you through the long nights. Care wasn't a building or a profession. It was something the people around you did with their hands. Being sick meant being held by your community, and for a lot of human history, that closeness, being watched over, never left alone, was the most powerful treatment available. It couldn't cure an infection, but it meant no one faced the worst moments by themselves. Of course, that same village also had strong opinions about your health, whether you wanted them or not. 3,000 years before WebMD, you already had 6 relatives convinced your headache was a curse, and a neighbor insisting the cure was a paste of onions and prayer. Some traditions, it turns out, never die. And because death was so close, people lived differently with it. You would have seen death many times before you were grown. You'd have sat with the dying. You'd have known in your bones that life was fragile and short. That's a heavy thing to carry. But it also did something to people that's hard for us to imagine now. When you know the body is borrowed and the time is short, the ordinary day becomes enormous. A shared meal, a warm fire, a face you love, still here. People who lived close to death often lived intensely awake to being alive, not because it was romantic, but because they had no choice. Nothing was guaranteed, so nothing was taken for granted. And then, astonishingly fast, everything changed. In the last century and a half, humans finally pulled back the curtain. We discovered that tiny invisible germs cause disease, and that washing hands could save lives. We learned to put people gently to sleep for surgery instead of the unthinkable alternative. And then the miracle: antibiotics. A pill that could kill the very infections that had been killing us since the beginning. This is not a small thing. This is maybe the greatest thing our species has ever done. In a few short generations, we roughly doubled how long a human being can expect to live. Children who would have died now grow up. The scrape, the fever, the cough, defanged. If you take nothing else from this video, take this. Modern medicine is a wonder, and we are unbelievably lucky to have it. But something moved, quietly, and it's worth noticing. Care left the home. The sick person no longer stays in their own bed surrounded by family. They go to a building, tended by skilled strangers in clean rooms, which is genuinely better for surviving. But it means that for most of us now, serious illness happens somewhere else, out of sight. And death moved with it. For almost all of history, people died at home, in the middle of life, surrounded. Now, most people die in hospitals and care facilities. We made dying safer and lonelier at the same time. Death stopped being a thing you grew up around and became a stranger you meet only at the very end, often unprepared. We're the first humans who can reach adulthood having never once watched someone die. That's a kind of mercy. It's also a kind of forgetting. And here's the quietest cost of all. When survival was a daily fight, the body was a companion you listened to. Now that medicine handles so much, the body can feel like a machine we manage, something to optimize, monitor, and worry about. We have more health than any humans in history, and somehow more anxiety about it. We track our steps and our sleep and our heart rates, a little afraid, never quite trusting the machine to just run. We solved the fear of dying young, and we replaced it, sometimes, with a low, constant hum of trying to never be sick at all. So let's reconstruct one last time what we set down. You're ill. It's bad. But you are not in a waiting room. You're home, in your own bed, in the room you've always known. Your mother is here. Your children are here. Someone is always awake. A hand on your forehead, a cool cloth, a low voice telling you you're not alone. There is no machine, no chart, no fluorescent hallway. There is just this. The people who love you, doing the oldest thing humans do, which is refuse to let you face it by yourself. Maybe you live, maybe you don't. But either way, you are surrounded. You are held. You are home. Now we can save you. We can do what your ancestors would have called magic. Pull you back from infections, repair what breaks, add decades to your life. It is an extraordinary gift, and no one in their right mind would trade it back. But somewhere in the trade, the sickbed left the home. The hands became gloves. The community became a profession. We gained the cure, and we lost a little of the closeness that used to come with being broken open in front of the people who loved us. We learned how to keep the body alive. We're still learning how to be with each other while we do it. So here's the question to sit with. If medicine gave us back the years that fear of death used to steal, what are we doing with them? Are we living wide awake to the ordinary miracle of an unremarkable day, the way people did when every day was uncertain? Or did we win all that time, only to spend it a little afraid of losing it? The cure was the easy part. The hard part is remembering to actually be alive in the time it bought us.